We often get asked about the 2 years we lived in an RV and traveled the U.S. and if we will ever buy another RV. Now, many retirees are interested in this lifestyle. First, it's a great way to see the country, and we highly recommend it. However, there are many downsides that you should consider.
For us, we sold our RV so that we could travel abroad, but we could have just as easily kept it to use when we were back home. In fact, we almost bought another one this year because we thought it might give us a place to live during our long stays in the States. But we remembered all the reasons we didn't keep it in the first place and decided RV living is not for us at this time.
It might, however, be for you. So today we're going to talk about the good and the bad of RV living in a frank and honest review. So let's go.
We're John and Bev, and we are the Retirement Travelers.
Before we get started, we wanted to say that we're planning some incredible adventures in 2025, so be sure to follow along with us on Instagram and Facebook. We also have a newsletter. There's a link in the description below.
So let's start with what is the best thing about RVing, and that is the people. The nicest people in America are in RVs.
That's right, and we encountered a lot of them. Now, if you remember when we started RVing, we had never spent a night in an RV before, so we were pretty clueless, and I think people could pick up on that.
Yeah, but one of the first things that happened to us is that a host in Tennessee taught us how to back up our trailer.
Yeah, we needed the help. Okay?
We needed the help. She taught us a great system, and we used it the entire time that we RV'd.
Yeah, and it wasn't only that. I mean, they would notice things about our rig, maintenance tips. People would bring us food.
Peaches in Georgia.
Peaches, free beer in Wisconsin. I mean, people were really nice to us.
They really were nice. And if you're thinking about RVing and you like meeting people, it is a great best thing about RVing is the people that you will meet.
Yeah, it is a nationwide community that's pretty awesome.
And speaking of community, there are a lot of groups out there RVing together. There are specialty groups that get together, and then there are some YouTube creators that we learned so much from. I don't know what we would have done without Today is Someday, and also Happily Ever Hanks. They started YouTubing at the same time as us. But during the time we RV'd, Today is Someday taught us everything that we knew.
Yeah, I mean, not just about how to RV, but where to stay, things like Harvest Host and Boondockers Welcome and all the little things like that made our RV stays more enjoyable. You know, the other thing is a lot of how-to stuff. We did not know how to do a lot of the things, especially with like parts and things like that. And Airstream enthusiasts, we had an Airstream. You could go online. There was different forums out there. If you typed in, I'm having a problem with XYZ, you would get 10 answers that same day with exactly what you needed to do, what kind of part, how to fix it, whatever. The answers are out there. So, you know, if you are inexperienced RVers like we were, no worries, because there's people out there in this great community that can help you.
Yes. The other part of RVing is that it felt like we had a home.
Yeah.
And as we traveled the world and we have no home, our RV felt like a home. Yeah, we hooked it up and moved around, but it felt like a home.
It was always with us, and we got to take our 2 little fur babies with us everywhere.
Everyone has a fur baby.
Everybody, yeah. Everyone has dogs, I think, in RV parks, and it was perfect for us, you know, during COVID to have them with us and have a home, have a place.
So, of course, moving around was a big part of why we wanted to RV. Our goal was to go see all of the national parks in the lower 48, and there are 51 now. We saw all of them. We also visited all of the states that we hadn't visited. It was just the most incredible experience being able to move around. I kind of think that's where part of our travel love of going somewhere and then moving on down the road. It just felt like that with RVing, and it feels like that as we travel the world. So it was a big part of what we loved about RVing.
Yes, we did. And another thing we liked was you didn't have to pack and unpack all the time. Since we brought our home with us, you basically just pack and unpack one time for an entire adventure of 6 to 7 months on the road. It was plenty enough room in our Airstream. And as we travel the world right now and we carry backpacks and we pack and unpack everywhere, it was kind of nice to only have to pack and unpack once.
It was, of course, kind of our gateway drug to getting rid of all of our stuff as we travel the world. I think back about that time, and it was during our RV days that we realized we didn't need a big house. We didn't need a lot of stuff to make ourselves happy. We wanted to go travel, but it helped us to see that life was about experiences and not about things.
That's right. I mean, when we reflect back, it was probably the biggest thing that changed our entire retirement life, realizing we didn't need the stuff. And I guess it took RVing for us to break that cycle of needing stuff and building our life around stuff. So for that, we are eternally grateful to RVing because it really opened our eyes to a new way of living.
So let's talk about the things that just didn't really bother us about RVing that we thought would bother us. And the first one was emptying the black tank, emptying and filling tanks.
The thought of black tank, gray tank, I think we saw the movie RV with Robin Williams. And if you've ever seen that movie, there's a hilarious skit in there about, dumping the black tank of their RV.
And it going all bad.
And it went really bad. So we were a little nervous since we had never done it. But I tell you, it was a no-brainer.
It was a no-brainer. And it was the part of RVing that bothered us the least was cleaning out our tanks.
The next thing that really didn't bother us was backing up the trailer. Now, I must admit, at the very beginning it did.
It was a disaster.
But we got some great tips from this lady in Tennessee, and it kind of taught us how to do it. And really, from that point forward, no matter what type of spot I was parking in, I was confident because we had a system. It's definitely a two-person job, and it was really not an issue.
Yeah, at the end of our first year when we went to park it for the season was over and we were storing it. We had a gentleman that had opened a gate for us, and we had to turn the whole trailer completely around and go in backwards. And he said to us, I've never seen anyone have better teamwork in backing up a trailer than what you guys did. And it just felt like, okay, we succeeded in life. It was a big deal.
Another thing that didn't bother us was being away from the cities or, people. It was out in the country in very rural areas most of the time. And if you look at where all the national parks are, most of the national parks are situated not really close to people. So, we were on deserted highways and out in the country and mainly in the Midwest and West a lot, and it did not bother us a bit. It was very peaceful. We saw so much beautiful country in the United States. We will cherish those memories forever.
Yeah, but I will say that when we finished RVing, we did want some city living. And our first stop abroad was Panama City, Panama. And we rented an Airbnb for an entire month. And we just soaked in the city life.
That's right, in a high rise.
But our time seeing America, where we saw mountains and deserts and rivers and streams and caves and, seashores, it was just the best of America. The National Park System is truly one of the things that you should see in your retirement. And
that's right.
I'm so glad we did it.
It's made us better travelers, too, because we get asked all over the world, where should we go, from people around the world in the United States. And we can share our experiences of RVing and seeing all 50 states and the national parks. And we can kind of give them, based on what they're looking for, we can give them some good tips. So we're just so glad we did that, actually, before we start traveling the world.
The next thing that didn't bother us was our safety. We were a little nervous and apprehensive when we started. Somebody asked us, are you nervous about being in out-of-the-way places? Mm-hmm. But it turned out that it really was not a problem for us. We felt safe the entire time.
That's right. Safety was not an issue. The only thing we even encountered, there was one RV resort near San Diego that had a rash of bicycle theft. So when we got there, they said, make sure you lock your bicycles up. And if you remember that time during COVID, people were having a hard time finding bicycles to buy. And so somebody was buying them the stealing way. So that was the only thing. You do have to kind of watch your stuff. We had locks, but we never had a concern with safety.
So let's talk about some of the things that are on the bad list. Mm-hmm. And the first thing is the cost. This isn't necessarily the cheapest way to live.
Yeah, you think RV living, camping, it's so cheap. There's a lot of expenses involved, so beware.
Yeah, first of all, you've got to have a unit. Even if you rent one, that can kind of be pricey, but buying one.
And something to pull it, like a truck.
Yeah, if it's not self-contained.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it is that there's maintenance to be had. I think during our 2 years of travel, we went through 7 tires.
Yeah.
We had blowouts. We had leaky tires.
Punctures.
We had bad luck with tires.
Yeah.
But the other thing was just the storage cost when we weren't using it. And then the thing that really shocked us was the cost of RV parks.
Yes, many of these parks, you think camping, and maybe we just had a mindset from many years ago. We were thinking, oh, $30, $40. Most of them, the nice ones, you were paying, $80 or $90 a night. One of the things that we would do different if we ever RV'd again is we would try to go more off grid with generators, with solar panels, satellites. We were kind of doing it knowing that we were only going to do it a couple years, but we would have invested in some things to take us more off grid. We could have definitely saved some money versus some of the RV parks.
Yeah, we met the dry campers as we were traveling, and they have a YouTube channel where they install solar panels, and they'll meet up with you and they'll install solar panels on your unit. We would definitely do that again.
Definitely.
And meet up with them. But the cost is very expensive, especially if you're near national parks, because a lot of our thought was state parks or national parks, that would be a viable option for us. But it turned out that it really wasn't. A lot of them don't have good electricity hookups, or they don't have sewer hookups, or, if you're near a park, they're kind of pricey because they know people are coming there to camp. So, I think the most we ever paid was maybe we paid $200 down in Key West. That was very expensive. Or
Key Largo, somewhere in Florida there. We
paid a very expensive fee.
The other thing about RV is parts. We had an Airstream, so it's very similar to boating. Parts are more expensive than the rest of the world. So, like if you needed a part for an RV, especially like an Airstream, you'd think, oh, that's probably $20 or $30. No, it's probably $80 or $90. Yeah. It could add up in a hurry. We had a broken windshield. Those things, that was like $300 or $400. Parts add up, so take that into mind. There will be maintenance.
So the next thing that was kind of the downside, the bad side, was that we felt like we were living in a parking lot a lot of times. Yeah. It just wasn't the kind of outdoor experience that we had dreamed of. We thought we would be parked somewhere near a lake and have a great view, and very rarely in our 2 years did we have a good view. Yeah,
the brochures are on the internet always show you beside a river, lake, or ocean, and you got this great view, and there's no RVs around you. But then you get there and you find out you're in, row 37C, and you're crammed in between 2 other big RVs. So we found that a lot more than the one where you're, out by yourself with this beautiful view.
Yes, and had we been more self-sufficient with solar panels, we could have camped at BLM land, and we just would have had a better experience, I think.
Yeah, you live and learn, but that's why we're sharing this with you now. Okay, the next downside to consider is just how hot and how cold you are in different locations and when you travel. Now, we had an Airstream, and one of the things that if we had it to do over, we would have got one with 2 AC units, because we were in the Southwest in May and June thinking, well, maybe it's not too hot. Well, we got to the Las Vegas area, and it was 110 degrees, and we could not keep our Airstream cool enough. So we ended up going to a hotel for a couple nights.
And we did that a couple of times.
Yes,
it was just too hot.
Very, very hot. And then on the other extreme, we were up in the mountains of Colorado in September, and we got 17 inches of snow near Rocky Mountain National Park. So, the extremes, take that into consideration in your trip planning mainly.
And also in your unit buy.
And when you buy a unit that you can, adequately handle the extremes in temperature.
The next downside to RVing is that as we traveled, we would often ride along the road, and I would say, let's stop. And then there was just nowhere to turn around, or someone would tell us about a great restaurant, and we would be driving to the town and we would see it and we would go right on by it because there was nowhere to pull off.
Yeah, it was really bad with overlooks. I bet we counted 50 overlooks on our trip, and we couldn't park at them because you know how hard it is to get into the great overlooks. Well, you're you're pulling a 30-foot trailer, it's almost impossible. So take that into consideration.
Yeah, we felt like we just missed places that we wished, there was that amazing view that I would say, oh, can we go back? And then there was just nowhere to turn around.
Yeah, we're pretty spontaneous. We love to just stop and go see or do something, and you kind of can't do that with an RV. So it's not only with stopping, it's with parking. You always had to take into consideration where you're going to park and where you're going to get gas. Those were both very important things because, we got ourselves into a bind a few times in these gas stations that just were hard to maneuver. They're very, very busy and hard to maneuver. And then we'd want to go to a restaurant or somewhere in town. And again, trying to find places to park with an RV in some of these small towns is hard. And we had several times we parked on the outskirts of town and walked in because we just couldn't find a good place to park.
Yeah, parking can be problematic for you when you're RVing, and we get it. We're hauling around a big trailer, but that's kind of that was just one of the downsides that we didn't necessarily anticipate the problem of what we were going to miss and the problems we were going to have finding parking. Probably the biggest downside to RV living, especially for us trying to be YouTubers, is connectivity issues.
Lack of connectivity issues.
We struggled with this all the time. And, if we were to do it again, we would certainly get a Starlink and we would have satellite abilities. And, I think a lot of people who RV full time, they know these secrets, but we really struggled with that.
Yeah, especially if you want to YouTube while you're RVing. I'll never forget when we sat at this laundromat for 4 hours trying to upload a video because it was the best Wi-Fi we could get.
Yeah, it was very frustrating. Yeah. But if you RV, be sure you look for opportunities to improve your ability to get online. It's so important.
Or just go in knowing that you're not going to have great reception to Wi-Fi, and go enjoy nature and be
off the grid.
And be off the grid. And I think if we weren't trying to YouTube at the same time, we would have done more of that.
The next downside for us was driving. Just the difficulty of driving. I had a tough time as I was backseat driving for John.
Yeah, she did a lot of backseat driving.
I tried to help him as best I could.
Well, there were several issues. One of them is pulling up steep grades, knowing that you had a big load, and that happened a few times in the West. Wind could be a real problem. When you see the little sign that says the Mack truck could tip over, know that you might have a problem with your RV. And then lastly, RV driving in cities was no fun at all. We did Denver, we did Chicago, and I'll never forget when we were in Los Angeles, we were coming from San Diego up to Santa Barbara, and we were pretty ingenious. We decided to set the alarms for 2:30 in the morning. We got up, we left at 3 a.m. We drove completely through Los Angeles in the middle of the night. There was not very much traffic. We stopped at a Cracker Barrel and ate and slept up near Santa Barbara. It worked out great. But believe me, driving in the city with 70-mile-per-hour traffic with Mack trucks on both sides, it's just no fun.
Well, people aren't necessarily gracious about letting you in and out, and it was just not always. No, always.
That's not the highlight of RV living.
But it is something you have to put up with.
Yeah.
So with all of that said, overall, RVing in retirement is a good thing. It is a great way to spend your retirement and get out of the house, but it's just not for us right now.
Now, this doesn't mean that we're never going to RV again, and we might decide to do this again, but we just wanted to share our thoughts about the good things and the bad things of this style of living.
Yep, and we will see you next time.
Be sure to hit subscribe and follow along on our retirement journey around the world.